Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. This is one of those things that should have been made a long time ago because this is kind of like a defining video. And I know there's a lot of um videos in the playlists that show how I make assist hooks specific to the jig. It could be a plug or whatever. But there is no video that defines what an assist hook is and possibly some tips on how to make them. I'll give some guidelines in this video, and also especially when you're buying, because a lot of people don't have the luxury of actually making their own. So this video will help you understand how to build them and buy them. I think that's like very important and critical for a lot of people. Now, um, if you're new to the channel, this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in between, including fly fishing. And today we're talking about assist hooks, what they are, what they're used for, what they're good at, and what they're not. Okay, and we're gonna be busting some myths. Probably, I think one of the things that I actually want to emphasize is best practice. Alrighty, so let's talk about jigging first. Okay, so it was around 1993 when Mr. Mogi, Mogi Yuichi, landed an amberjack. And this was in one of their trips. I think the group's name is like the Grouper Boys, right? So that was the birth of Japanese style jigging and vertical jigging as we know of today. At around 1998, 1999, and this is just before the turn of the century, um, someone put assist hooks on jigs, vertical jigs. And that kind of basically moved it forward. All right, now my first encounter with this was in Cebu at around the early 2000s, or around the early 2000s. There was a Japanese guy there at the yacht club and brought some jigs, and we saw that. We were like, whoa. So first time I've ever seen something with a hook on a cord with the hook in front of the jig. So for me, that was something that's really strange. But then again, it's Japanese. And normally, when it comes to everything Japanese, there is a huge disconnect between their fishing culture or anything that's Japanese and how the West understands their methods. But largely what happens is that they're innovators. They're always ahead of the curve. But at that time, most of the fishing in the world is actually focused from with technology from the States and methods from the States. So back in the Philippines, growing up, I was kind of exposed with a little bit of the Japanese methodology, and then a lot of the US methodology. So seeing assist hooks for the first time was actually kind of weird, right? But I was already familiar with jigs because before jigs were called vertical jigs, we already had no equals, cast masters. I've already familiar with California iron. So there are jigs, we know this. There are lures like zingers and spinos, which are jigs, okay, which are types of jigs. And we also have the Yozuri Blanca and the metallic sardine that have been introduced at that time already. But these were all for casting. So me, the surprise that I had was when I saw this jig, which was normally a casting jig with an assist hook. And yeah, I was actually told like, oh, by the way, these are called assist hooks. So yeah, it was oddly enough, it wasn't like a heavy stuff too. It's actually a light jig. Okay. So at around that time, right? Very little understanding of what this thing does. And little did I know that it was gonna affect my life and my fishing in a very big way. All right, so I have some notes here. uh, what are assist hooks? Okay, assist hooks are hook assemblies. Okay, attached to lures, not just jigs, but lures. And instead of being fixed directly to the lure, such as this, they are made so that they are independent and move freely from the lure. Okay? What they do, okay, here's a very good example. What they do is that they hook the fish more efficiently and they reduce, they don't eliminate, they reduce the chance of the fish throwing the hook, because as soon as the fish is attached, okay, it can move freely without the influence of the jig, and there's no chance for the fish to use the jig or the lure for that matter, because you could put it on stick baits, right? And it is a single line of pull, which gives you very good pulling power. You don't rely on the structure of the lure to pull on the fish. So you are on a direct line to the fish, and the fish has no way of using the jig as a leverage or the lure. Okay? So very, very important. Now, why assist hooks work better? See, here's the thing. I know that we always talk about jigs because it's the most common thing to attach assist hooks on. So, for the purposes or the first part of this video, let's just talk about the basics, which is, okay, the use of assist hooks on jigs. Okay, now notice that the jig has two ends. Okay, traditionally, what happens is that you put a treble hook at the back. Okay, what happens is that when you're pulling the lure or the jig and then it swims, the fish will grab it. A habit of the fish is that they will grab the head because fish have spines. Okay? And if they grab it from the back, guess what happens? The spine hits the throat and they choke on the fish. Good way to die. So, the fish, out of habit and instinct, would always grab the head, flip the fish around so that the fins, the rays of the fins will rake backwards, and then they would be able to swallow. So assist hooks are placed where the fish will grab. Okay? Because fish will always strike at the head. Now, look at this jig. Okay, and you will see the damage. The damage is exactly, okay, where the branding is. Okay, there we go. You see that? Right? Now, look at where the assist hook sits. It sits where those bite marks are. Okay, here's a clearer picture. Now, you know that the fish have like habits, and you know that they're going to strike there. Now, if your treble hook is back here, you could still catch them, but what happens is the fish will bite and then it will slide off and then they get hooked. That's not very efficient. And also, when the fish bite, okay, and the hook, the lure is like that, once the fish runs, see, it actually makes this a lever. And that kind of explains why there's a lot of fish that you lose, or that you lose a lot of fish on casting jigs, because they can shake it off. But assist hook solved that. Okay, so the hooks sit near the strike zone, and which is roughly 1/3 of the length of the lure. That's the target of the fish. And the biggest thing is that they move independently. All right. And then when the fish swipe at it, boom, it what do you call this? It literally hooks the fish. Okay. Now, how it works, right? So when the jig is attacked, and remember the jig has to be in that position right there because see, so it has to be sideways, right? When the jig is attacked, the hook is there, okay, and then the fish grabs it, and then it turns. When it turns, the hook catches and it penetrates, and because the hook is not fixed, see, fish can't shake it off. So that's why it's very very effective. Now on plugs, it kind of works differently. Okay, so as you can see here, most of the time this is a treble hook here, but when the fish grabs it, you can see that the hooks actually separate. Okay, because each hook is put on there independently, as you can see. Oh, focus. Okay, so it's independent, and just a little bit actually exposes the tip. So um, your strike ratio is actually quite high. Also, watch this. Okay, as soon as the fish hits this other one, because of its shaking, will also grab, giving you 2 points of contact. And because the hooks, okay, let me get a treble hook so I can show you. This is a good sized treble hook right here. And normally it could be compared to a hook that would be this big. Okay, as you can see, this hook is about almost the same width as this hook. Okay, you can see that. What a lot of people don't consider is the fact that these are three hooks. This is not just one hook. Okay, this is three hooks with small gaps. And the reason why assist hooks are very good at holding fish is because it has a bigger purchase. So when you hook the fish, you actually hold that much meat. Whereas with the treble hook, you only hold a small sliver of meat. Okay, it could be, when you're lucky, it could be 2 points, but then again, it's still going to be small slivers of meat. Whereas with this, you have one big hook that holds a lot. Okay, so the grip, the hold that it has on the fish is far bigger. Now, also, I know it's kind of not a good thing, but um, sometimes you hook the fish and it goes out of the eye socket, and there is no way for that fish to actually go anywhere. Okay, that only happens with assist hooks and never with trebles. Okay, so old school, with casting jigs, trebles, lost fish there. With the advent of assist hooks, you lose fewer fish. Okay. Uh, 5 considerations when building assist hooks. Okay. Uh, this when you're building, you can customize. Okay. So this is a very good example of a purpose-built hook, and it is, as you can see, perfect for this jig. But it's not always that you would get the perfect length. only when you're building. Okay, so ideally it should be like roughly about a third of the hook. Okay, um, if it's too long, it will tangle. Okay, and another thing about long assist hooks is that, believe it or not, you'll hook up late. Okay, if it's too short, you'll miss. You'll miss because, like I think in a previous video, I actually said that a very good clue on how to put your hooks on jigs is to look at the damage, right? So if it's too short, guess what? You're gonna hook still you're gonna hook more, or I mean, still you're gonna hook fish, but you're not going to hook as much. Okay, so a very good guideline I'd like to repeat: if you have a jig that you've already used, okay, like this one, so this kind of like becomes a template for me for all the Keitans that I have. All I have to do is just make a hook, assist hook that goes on there. I'll just make clones of these, and I know that for the 200-gram Keitan, that is the length that I need. Okay, so again, the goal for the cord length would be long enough so that the hook sits where the fish strike more often. Kind of a no-brainer there. All right, so second point you need to consider when you're building is the proper hook size and shape. Okay, I always try to, and this is a problem. Okay, so here's the thing. This is just one box. Okay, and I have three others over here, and the reason why I have so much is not just the size but also the shape. Okay, because I try to match the hook to the shape of the jig, right? um you'll find that some hooks would actually sit better because of the shape of the jig itself. So what you want for fast jigs, because this is for fast jigging. Okay, for fast jigs, I always want it to be like that. Okay, so as you can see, there's always going to be a gap there, right? That's kind of like my guideline. So not all hooks would be proper for this jig shape. That's why you have to have a lot. You have to juggle, if you're serious at least. You have to juggle with the shape. You have to juggle with the size. Okay? Um, Another thing that a lot of people kind of miss is that hook point. Oops. It's that hook point right there. Okay? I'm going to give you a few examples, right? There's another one right there, as you can see. Okay, I always choose hooks that point towards the eye, right? Because, and I think I've actually explained this in a few videos before. So what it is the line of pull, and something very, very important, because whatever your pull is, okay, where the line of pull sits, in this case, where that cord meets the eye is where it originates, my line of pull. So that's going to be straight to where my leader's going to be. And if your hook point is pointing down, it's going to be aiming at that point. So when the fish grabs, what happens is that when I pull, that hook point is going to be traveling in the same direction as my line of pull. Okay, so here, okay, line of pull right there, and it forms a triangle. Now, if it's pointing outwards, what happens when you when you uh, when you pull, it's going to miss because it's going to be pointing elsewhere and not at the mouth of the fish. And this is like simple physics, really. There are tools to bend hooks even more. Okay, they're not available anymore, but Back in the day when um, hooks were not too specialized, we had tools to bend the hook so that they will be pointing down more. And that's kind of a thing that is that has disappeared. Okay, so you see, you can bend it down and it bends to meet the angle of the eye. Very handy tools. There were two sizes, and they're not for sale anymore. But when you're making your own kind of essential tools to tweak things, and yeah, if you can find some, you know, good luck. But if you can find some, pretty good. And they don't damage the hook. So, again, choose when you're making, when you're building, or even when you're buying. Okay, choose hooks that point towards the eye. Okay, very important. So proper hook point and what do you call this? Now, assist cords. This is something that's very critical because n- there are some cheap cords out there that are really bad. Okay, so when you're choosing, you're either using Kevlar or PE, and Kevlar I don't really like particularly, um, but there are some woven PE that are pretty good, and those I really like. There are some Kevlar, like take for example the Varivas SS. I like it, but very difficult to work with. There are some like the one from Suffix, too soft for my liking. Um, they work, but again, too soft. There are other brands. Stick with the reputable brands, just so you know it's what do you call this? It's safe. But when you know what to look for, then go ahead and experiment. But start out with the Japanese brands. Fishing Fighters is good. There's some from YGK, Gamakatsu. There are other brands. Hesta is actually really good. Um, just make sure that they're strong enough to handle whatever target you are pursuing. There are instructional videos on how to make these. So, again, just explore the channel. Um, it is very important to always find cord that's slightly stiffer than what you think you need. It's too soft and you'll get a lot of tangles. So looking for uh the right stiffness and strength is something that you kind of have to balance. But the most important thing that you need to understand is that the stiffer the cord, the less you're gonna have tangling. So this is one of the reasons why I always tell people to start out with stiffer assist cord first. Okay, very good example, Varivas SS. Just if you're making um like very simple to start with, just very simple assist hooks like just loops, they're very good to start with. Okay, um connections. Okay, so it's either you're going to be binding or knotting. Okay, so for this particular one, you have an eyed hook, you have a stopper knot, and then you bind the tag at the very back. Obviously, for fast jigging, it's kind of different, but for slow jigging, you'll find that uh, there are hooks that don't have eyes. Okay, in which case you'll be binding them. There are also some fast jigging assist hooks that don't have eyes. But if you can get away with it, okay, just buy those with eyes when you're building to start with. That way, especially for fast jigging, there's several with just eyes, and stay away from those that are spade heads. Okay, very critical, very very critical. Um, now, bindings, very hard to manage. There are ways. Again, there's several methods to be do how you do it in the channel. Finishing it, you have this type, which is shrink shrink wrap, okay? And then my style is with super glue, okay? And you could also use epoxy, okay? So in this case right here, that's epoxy. So there's several methods that you could use. You can have one with flash, you can have ones without. You can position the flash like so, so that it doesn't snag, because once it goes down, actually has a parachuting effect. This is glow in the dark. So you can actually put glow in the dark, silver, black, okay? Depends on what you're building it for. So I only use the sparkly stuff and UV flash for shallow water. And then for deep water, it's either I use bare, because what you want is for the attention of the fish to be on the jig and not on the assist hook. Okay. And if I use flash for deeper, what do you call this? Deeper applications, it is so that I can uh, manipulate the hook, especially when I'm fishing around snags, you know. So something like this will parachute and fall later than the jig. So kind of something that you also have to think about. All right. So that's part of the connections, because guess what? When you're binding or you're tying your assist hook, that's gonna be part of it. Yeah. So knots, binding, or you can actually pierce the assist cord and then bind. So there's several methods. But the most important thing that you should remember is that when you're tying, it has to be really smooth. Okay. Um, First and foremost, it has to be very clean. Okay. The knot should be tight, assuming that you're going to be tying with hooks with eyes. And the binding at the back should be really clean and smooth, because guess what? That affects how it moves in the water. All right. So make it as clean as possible when you're building. Okay. Now, if you're using two hooks, uh, there are several methodologies to go around with it. Okay. I don't like doing two hooks, because when you're dropping down deep, just take note, when you're dropping down deep and it snags, there's going to be two hooks that actually go down there and look for the snags for you. So I like using singles, and my percentage on hooking with singles is quite high. Now, if you want to have two, because for some weird reason you kind of just like want to put two, um, have them on one side each. Okay, so one side here, and then another one's gonna be right here. You tie both assist hooks onto the same solid ring. Okay, and they should be sitting equal. I know there are different styles that have offsets and all this, but remember, basic stuff, just know what you're doing first. So when you're choosing to put two, just put them as equal, and then it's less headache. Okay. The problem with offsets and all that is that they will tangle. So one will spin around, and they kind of move unevenly in the water. So what happens is one will go like this, and before you know it, the jig will not move and it'll spin. That's also one reason why I just prefer to have one, because the action will remain consistent. But remember, two hooks, you'll have double the problem. Okay. But if you have those two hooks, you have to make sure that they will work together and not against each other, and having them snag or whatnot. So you'll have to use a stiffer cord. Okay. And make sure that when you're tying your leader, it's going to be in between. So that's leader here, this hook, and then another one right there. Okay. Now, when you're buying, kind of difficult, because again, matching it with the jig is almost impossible. So when you're buying, okay, one of the biggest advice that I can give when you're buying is to actually take the jigs that you intend to be using for the uh, hooks. And then it's basically just a simple matching, you know? So you go, okay, so that is the right size of hook, let's say. Okay, so I'm gonna go like this. Example, I'm buying for the K-Ton. So I'm gonna take the assist hook. I'm gonna go like that. So, okay, I have the right hook. And then see exactly if the length is correct. For most reputable brands, what happens is that they will have three different lengths. So short, medium, and long. All you have to do is just match the length. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Um, make sure that you actually have an ample supply. Nothing worse than actually buying just a couple, and then when you're fishing, the uh, the hooks get cut off. Now, when you're building them, you can actually build in multiples, but when you're buying, you're only a slave to how much you carry with you. Okay, so buy extras, right? Uh, Obviously, bigger jigs will require bigger hooks, and you don't have the luxury to choose the hooks. The guideline is you always choose hooks that are thinner. Okay, and again, the shape with the eye pointing down. There are a lot of commercial assist hooks out there that just put whatever hooks. Okay, so these hooks are very specialized, but since you're buying, you get to choose. So not don't fall into the habit of just getting one brand. Choose different. Okay, and then after that, see exactly which hooks suit your jigs, and then go from there. Right? Assist length again, relative to jig. If you can't find the perfect length, find at least one that is close to where the target is. And chances are what's going to happen is that it's going to be pretty close, right? Um, choose cords, assist hooks that have cords that are not limp, okay? Um, cheaper assist hooks are notorious for that. You'll find that the Kevlar will, as soon as the hooks actually hit the cord, fibers are always gonna stick out for the cheap stuff, and they're actually very limp. Don't go for the limp ones. The limp ones will snag the jig. So when you're buying, especially, be very critical about these things. Okay, very important, because you don't want to be the guy to always have the cord snag on the jig, and when you're dropping down 300 meters, you don't know how the jig is behaving. All of a sudden you just feel that it's kind of different, and then you find out that that's the feeling when the cord is actually around the jig. You'd have several strikes, and then you're not going to hook the fish, and that's the reason why. Okay, so be very, very critical of the cord, right? Now, here, good cords will actually, you see that, with the weight of the hook, they can still kind of bend, right? Cheap cords will not have that. It's just going to be limp, right? So always look for cords that actually have a bit of resistance. That means that they are stiff enough. Okay, so that's a heavy hook, by the way. So here, if the cord can support the hook, then that's stiff enough. If it's limp, it's just gonna fall straight down like that, and you might not like that. All right. Um, Another thing to consider, as I've mentioned, it's the hook shape, the sharpness, of course, and the thickness of the wire. Here's a very good example. I know that this is kind of similar in shape, but this is a different hook. This is for trolling, so the wire is thick, and although it is the right size, when you're jigging, what you want is penetration. Okay, so the thicker the wire of the hook, the harder it would be to penetrate. Okay, so always choose hooks that are very sharp out of the packet, but as a matter of practice, sharpen them before you use them. Just touch the tip up and ensure that it's sharp. So again, sharpness, thickness of the hook, very critical. Okay, very, very critical. The longer the point that you have, by the way, the less your penetrating power. So um, I kind of choose uh, points that are not too long, but that's a personal preference. Okay, but just take note of that. Something that's overly too long, it's not going to help you in the penetration department. Okay. Now, obviously, you get what you pay for. So build quality is a big thing. Remember, these are the tools that will hold hook and hold the fish. So if you buy cheap stuff, chances are what's going to happen is that it's going to pop off. Now, there are a lot of Chinese brands that are actually pretty good. Okay. So when you're actually buying Chinese, just look for the reputable ones, and then look at the thickness. That's very important because something like BKK would say that they have strong hooks, but all it is thicker, right? So something like that kind of has like a check and balance thing that needs to be vetted, right? Some hooks penetrate better than others, and the reason why is because they're thinner. That's the long and short of it. Okay, so inspect the cord when you're buying. Inspect the cord, see if it's smooth and not cottoning up. If it has like things sticking out and stuff like that, run and avoid that like a plague. Another thing to consider is the split ring. Look for quality components and split rings, because split rings and solid rings, if you're buying an assembly, okay, solid rings play a very important part. So look for quality ones. Okay, how would you tell? Well, basically, you can find good rings and they're flattened, right? Don't buy ones that look like washers, because those are probably are washers. So avoid those. So solid rings, it could be, even if there's a weld there, that's fine. But again, the safest way is to actually go to good brands. These are not that expensive, but get good ones, okay? Or buy assemblies from good brands, all right? So that's that. Now, key things to remember. Assist hooks are part of a system. It's not just you buy this, you put it there. It has to work together, okay? Some assist hooks work better with certain jig shapes. So again, this is something that you need to juggle around, right? Assist hooks also, up to a certain degree, work with the weight of the jig. So matching the assist hook to the weight is very important. Obviously, I'm not going to match this with this, and then I can see that this one is actually super big, right? I'm not going to match it with this. So how I match it, again, length, okay, and then the gape of the hook right there. Choosing assist hooks also is a matter of your target species. Obviously, this is kind of like an all-arounder right here. But if I'm fishing specifically for fish that have teeth, guess what? I'm going to change this into something that has wire, as I have shown you guys before, right? So if I'm encountering places like, take for example, here in the Gulf, there's a lot of places with there's kingfish. So I would change this with one that has wire. Okay. So match it. Um, Make a checklist, before you put things together. Just make a checklist, something that would remind you of which hooks to match with the jigs. More than likely what's going to happen is that as you progress, you will have a mental note and you don't need the list. You just know which hooks go together with the jigs and the lengths and all that. So for me, I actually have a box with all my assist hooks there, and I know which one goes where. I have a box for fast jigging and I have a box for slow jigging. All right. Um, what I do, another advantage because I make my own, is that I don't use assist hooks and recycle them for a really long time. What I do is take the hooks off. Okay, so the cord sacrificial, they get worn in. So I just take the solid ring, uh, take the epoxy or the glue off, and then wash the hooks. And if I need to clean them, if there's a little bit of rust, I'll take a file and or sandpaper and just clean it up, make them as new as I can, and then put new cords, basically assemble an assist hook from them, like that. So if you're buying, it's probably a good way to recycle things and get into making them yourselves. But again, for starters, make a list of exactly which length goes to which jig so that it's less confusing. All right. Now, something that I have to I know it's towards the end and it's kind of long, but this is something that I need to tell you guys that is missed by a lot of people. And this is probably kind of like a, what do you call this? A technical secret that I want to share with you guys. Okay. Choosing the hook is very critical, and I really think that this is the most critical part of making an assist hook, whether it would be for slow jigging or fast jigging. I know that it's much simpler for slow jigging because all you have to do is just say, I need a thin hook for slow jigging. That's that. But the fact of the matter is, assist hooks are supposed to work like circle hooks, in a sense that they should be self-setting. Okay, so when you're jigging, okay, when you're jigging, and remember, when you're jigging up and down. Okay, as soon as the fish hits, you're already jerking the rod up. So you're literally, each movement of your rod, you're setting the hook. Okay, so this whole system, it's self-setting. Okay, you don't need to like crank down and then bang, 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 bang like some people do. Okay, ideally, when it comes to fast jigging, you're fishing for fish that are like, they're aggressive. Okay, so slow jigging is something that you use when the fish are less aggressive, when the fish are being prima donnas. But when the fish are aggressive, the most efficient jigging method is the fast jig. All right. So what happens is that you will have or attract a lot of fish that are going to be committing. The last thing you want is to be very inefficient with your hook. Okay. So the hook is very important, and choose a hook that's thin and like, look, this is the Kanmaru from Gamakatsu, and the one of the reasons why I love this hook is because it is forged, as you can see there. Okay, it's not circle, right? It's pounded on the side, and it makes it very, very strong. And this is something that is very important because it makes the metal stronger and it has less propensity to bend. But at the same time, it also helps the penetration, right? So a lot of people think that they could just use any type of hook and off you go, like a live bait hook. And I used to do that. But jigging hooks are specialized, and it could be that you're choosing like a bigger size. But guess what? If you're choosing a bigger size, that's a thicker hook. And you have to match that with the line that you're using, because thinner line, okay, might not have the power to set a thick wired hook. And you'll need like a PE 8 or 10 to fish this, right? But for PE 4, PE 6, PE 3 even, you want something slim so that you don't really have to set the hook. And that is something that will help you be very efficient, okay? Because once you get that hook in, guess what? All you have to do is just hold on tight and reel, not slowly, but reel, uh what's the word for it? Reel with intent. Don't pump, okay? Just slowly, okay? Slowly, deliberately. You don't have to pump and go crazy. Like fighting fish, you should be calm, and it should be the rod, especially for fast jigging. You can actually load and bend that rod and fight the fish, okay? Different story with slow jigging, but you could use the rod to fight the fish, and you're not gonna do yourself a favor if you're not calm. So everything just works together. All right. As soon as you hook the fish, just be consistent, keep the line tight, reel, short pumps, and you'll get the fish up. But it all starts with the hookup. And if you do it right, you don't have to set the hook. It self sets, and that is like a big secret that I really want to share with you guys. Anyway, so that's it for this video. Hopefully this is something that you've learned from, and would help you going forward. I'd like to thank the subscribers, of course. If you have fishing buddies that are interested with this sort of thing, share this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe. It really helps the channel. Another thing to help the channel is to click on that like button. Very, very important, so that the algorithm actually likes the video and pushes it to more people. And we need that visibility, guys. So please like, subscribe, boom, thumbs up. Alrighty. Especially if you learn something, click on that thumbs up, right? Smash that like button. Alrighty. Lastly, I'd like to thank the members. Thank you very, very much for your support. You're the core subscribers of the channel, I guess, because you chose to support. They help support the channel, help move things forward. So if you want to help the channel, go ahead and click that join button. That is it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.